Transformation, and I'm Bonnie Burkert, here to share tools for transformation, to live your highest truth. One thing that's true for me, and you've heard me say this on other shows when I've had certain guests that are specialists in this, is I like to chant. I have found that it helps me get to meditation. So invoking if I chanted on just any random word, would it feel the same as if I chanted to Shiva or Lakshmi or Krishna? I don't know, but we'll talk about that as I have back on the show again, a special welcome to Govind Das. Namaste.
Hey, Bonnie, great to see you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thanks. So I was listening to the last episode that you came on, and we were talking about the ancient paths of yoga and really kind of taking a deep look at the sort of early civilizations' understanding of, that part of the world, their understanding of yoga and time. So what I want to talk to you about today is more specific to something that I know you for and that we're excited to see you at. And it's an upcoming event in Los Angeles on October 5th at Veda Yoga. You'll be holding a kirtan.
Yes, we will. It's going to be a very special night. I'll be there with my wife, Jacqueline Michelle, and our dear friend from Colorado, Sheila Bringy. And as well, too, it is, I believe, the very first night of Navratri. And Navratri is 9. Nav means 9. Ratri means nights. It's essentially 9 nights of devoted focus and prayer and worship of the goddess. So it's a very special holiday. It actually happens twice a year. This is the fall Navratri, and we're going to have a wonderful kirtan that night at Veda Yoga in, I believe it's Culver City, Veda Yoga's new location. That's on La Cienega Boulevard.
Right on. Thanks so much for bringing up Navratri, because I'd like to learn more about that. So you mentioned that
Navratri.
And so you mentioned it happens twice a year. So what's the distinction between the event? Is it fall and spring? And what is the distinction?
Yes, fall and spring, Navratri, exactly. And typically this one, and I don't know why, but this Navratri is typically has a little bit more focus of more people specifically are celebrating and doing the rituals during this particular time. But again, I'm really sorry, I don't know why that is.
So you mentioned the goddess. Now, I think I've done a little bit of homework on this, and I saw specifically the Hindu goddess Durga mentioned in association with this. Now, are we tying in? It's fun. Having been to a kirtan with you recently, we were calling the names of, it's like the different goddesses, but technically it's really all different aspects of the goddess, correct?
You are absolutely right. So
break that down a little bit for us.
Yes. Well, see, people commonly think of this Vedic tradition, the spiritual tradition from India, as what's called polytheistic. And on some level it is, because there are many different names of gods and goddesses. But ultimately, as my guru Neem Karoli Baba said, sub ek, it means only one. There's just one God. And this is known. When you know this, it's a monotheistic tradition, but it shows that one God shows its face in many different ways. So yes, one God, or we could say one goddess, but there are many different faces of that one goddess. And the 3 goddesses that are essentially worshipped during Navratri are Saraswati, who is the goddess of music and the arts and language and increasing our knowledge and all forms of dance and expression. This is Saraswati. Then there's Lakshmi, who's the goddess, certainly, that most of us know is the goddess of abundance and prosperity and beauty and grace, not only physical prosperity and abundance, but spiritual prosperity and abundance as well, too. And then, of course, the last goddess that we're talking about, or the first goddess that we were talking about, is Durga. And Durga is this warrior-esque, she's like part warrior-esque goddess that slays and fights the demons of the ego. And then she's also part like all-loving, tender, divine mother. That's just like all nurturing to her children. And who are her children? Us. We are her children. So but from the one, it expands into many, but then draws back into the one. So it takes sort of what could we say, like an expanded mind and openness just to start to have an understanding and relation, because it's so different than our Western spiritual traditions that most of us have grown up in.
Yeah, interesting indeed. I love this, and I'm kind of thinking about, I had an experience I went to India, and there were beautiful temples, and we learned about the different deities, and there were statues and paintings and all of that, and got very, very into it. And then on my way home, I stopped in London, and I took a couple days, and I decided I wanted to go to Westminster Cathedral, because I think William had just gotten married. William and Kate had just gotten married, so it was on my mind. And I saw all the different saints that were painted and celebrated in sculptures in Westminster. And I was thinking, like, how is it really that different than what I just saw in India? There were just as many holy, people or saints. I mean, to me, it became there were a lot of similarities.
Yes, well, there's this very old saying, the paths are many, but the truth is one. Or maybe as well, it's said, all rivers lead to the same ocean. So, yes, I believe what you see in India can certainly be seen in other spiritual traditions as well, too, maybe with different names. But there's definitely connection points between the two.
It's a beautiful saying. I love that. We'll definitely share that out to the world. And I feel that, in a way, that point that you're making would maybe help people understand a little bit more about the chanting that we do, that I know you for, the kirtan. And Govind has wonderful events. I've had a chance to see you in Topanga recently, Bhakti Fest for many, many, many years. I know you're heading to India soon, all over. And you and Jacqueline Michelle are beautiful singers. And even if you don't know exactly what Durga does, I mean, now because we learned from you. But just to sing along with everybody, I just thought you might want to describe a little bit of leading kirtan through all these years, what it might be like for some people that are interested in experimenting with it but don't feel like they know the mantras.
Well, music and sound and vibration, it's been used in pretty much every single spiritual culture that I know of. Christianity, Judaism, the Muslim faith, the call to prayer. So the Buddhist chanting, every spiritual tradition that I know of.
Native Americans, or indigenous, tribal.
And think of the Native Americans, Native Americans and the chanting and the flutes and the South America, the Peruvian, the shaman, all over, everybody uses music because music is it's like this vehicle to connect with our hearts, to connect with that higher power, that's something greater. And it's it's quite mystical. We can scientifically try to figure out why, but I think it's even beyond that. There's just this power to song and to music and to chanting that goes beyond what our normal language and words can touch. So, and we know music has this way of uniting people and bringing people from different faiths and skin colors and parts of the world together. Music has this incredible unitive quality. I mean, that's just something I've been sharing about so much in our kirtans lately is, there's just so much division in the world right now. And obviously we feel it with the election coming up and you come into a kirtan and the voices are uniting, the hearts are coming together. The next thing we know, we're smiling and clapping and dancing and spinning and twirling with someone we've never even met before, but we feel like they're our best friend. And
true.
So it has this way of dissolving our judgments and our differences and helping us to remember that we all are connected. And anything, especially in this particular time, that can help us remember that, I think is a beautiful gift. So that is a very powerful aspect of kirtan. So, for people that are new, what I usually say is, this is the way that every spiritual tradition uses music. This is what the yogis have. This has been these mantras and this kirtan. This has been the soundtrack of yoga for thousands of years. These ancient mantras have been sung and chanted as a call to the divine for grace and for mercy and in gratitude and in love and in joy. So I think it takes an open mind just to try something different. But what I usually say to newer people, don't even try to figure it out. Just let the experience, invite it in, let it move through you. See if we can get out of our constant intellectualizing and just come into our hearts. Even just for a moment, and that's where it happens. If we can go from here to here, that's when we can really understand what kirtan is about. And it's vibration, it's frequency. These mantras that we're chanting, they are called the names of the divine. And not only in yoga, not only in Bhakti Yoga, but all over the world, it's said that the names of the divine have this incredible power to clean and clear out our hearts, to purify our minds, to bestow good fortune and grace upon us, to purify our karma. So that's what we're doing in the practice of kirtan. And yes, I understand, the question that we talk about is, maybe someone dedicated to Jesus or Christianity or devoted to their Jewish faith or Muslim faith. Like, well, am I cheating on Jesus? Am I cheating on Allah if I'm chanting these names from, that come from India? And my feeling, and this is just my personal feeling, is, look, it's just one God. I love this it's this reference to the sun. There's only one sun that rises and sets every day, right? In America, we call the sun the sun. If we go just south of the border here, 2 hours away from where we live in Los Angeles, what do they call the sun? They call it sol. But it's the same sun. If you go to Italy, I believe they call it Soleil, right? If you go another quarter across the world into Asia, into India, it's called Surya.
All right.
But it's the same sun. One God that's known by many different names in different places. So with that understanding for me, and again, that's for me personally, I can chant the name of the divine in a tradition that maybe is different than I was brought up with, because I understand it's just one God, just sub-ek, only one.
Perfect. Absolutely exactly what we need to be reminded of. The sun, there's just one God. Now, I love that. So, I told you at the beginning of the call, I wanted to ask a little bit about your background and how'd you get so smart? I mean, how did you figure all this out? How did you become illuminated with this wisdom that you share so eloquently and you make it fun and easy to understand?
Thank you. I wasn't born into this. My parents weren't hippies. They didn't do yoga. I grew up on the East Coast in Maryland, and there was not even a yoga center in the town that I grew up in. If sometimes me and my wife, we teach yoga to the kids at my daughter's school. And every so often, once a year we do this International Kids Yoga Day in front of the whole school. We teach them yoga, and I say, all right, kids, there's 600 kids here. I say, how many of y'all have done yoga before? And guess what? About 95% of the kids raise their hands.
Wow, that's incredible.
When we were kids, if someone had asked that in our elementary school, it would have been probably less than 1% of the kids would have done yoga.
They would have laughed, yoga? What's that?
They would have said, well, what's yoga? Yogurt? What are you talking about? But things have changed in our world a lot. Yoga, the popularity in the last 50 years of yoga has spread like wildfire. So I didn't grow up with it. In college, I started using psychedelics, mushrooms mainly, smoking some ganja, and my mind really opened. And I started to experience things like just feeling that oneness, that interconnectedness, feeling the presence of the divine through these in these altered states, which I believe is what, many indigenous traditions use plant medicines for, as sacrament, to go into those altered states, to have that sense of communion. So it worked on me when I used those substances when I was young. I came out of college and I moved to California, and I started getting into meditation, started getting into yoga. And it was so right for me. It was like, this is how I want to spend my life. This is what I want to dedicate my life to. And then I was handed this tape of Ram Dass. If you're not familiar with Ram Dass, here's a image of Ram Dass.
Oh, yes.
And it was like that. The words that he was speaking hit home so deep. It was like, that's the path that I want to follow. And so he was mostly speaking about his guru, who is Neem Karoli Baba. Maybe you've seen an image of him before.
I have, yes.
And he was also speaking about Hanuman.
Okay.
And Hanuman is this monkey god, this divine monkey who's the embodiment of service and devotion and love. And one pointed focus on making our connection to the divine the most important thing in our lives. So I heard Ram Dass talking about this path of bhakti yoga, the path of love, the path of the heart, the path of devotion. And that was it. It was like my path had just became clear. And that was when I was about 24 years old. Now I'm 53, so almost 30 years now. I can't even believe it. And I've just like been to India 25 times. The first time I heard kirtan, it was like, that's it. That's how I want to spend this life, singing kirtan, chanting, singing to the divine, singing my love and gratitude for the miracle of this life. This is how I want to spend this life. This is the most important thing to me. So, with going to India, with, spending time with Ram Das and Krishna Das, and going to Neem Karoli Baba's ashrams, and being with Jayutal and many other elders on this particular path and in this specific tradition, I feel like it's really just sitting at their feet. The blessings have come, and just so infinitely grateful for those great ones, because that's how we get it. We get it from those that have walked the path before us, right?
It's wonderful to have the teachers. Yeah. I mean, you're describing, it's interesting because they say that we're in this time where we don't need gurus the way maybe that tradition is evolving. Do you know what I'm saying about that? You've maybe heard that somewhere along the way.
I hear that from people a lot, but I can't say I necessarily agree with it.
Okay. Tell us your thoughts around that.
Well, there's this popular opinion in our sort of new age world that you are your own guru. You are your own guru.
It's true.
And I get that, because any external guru, any of these beings, they are ultimately designed to point us to the guru that lives within our hearts. From the yogic tradition, the Sat Guru lives within our hearts as the true self. That is the ultimate guru. And the role of any external guru is to point us towards that guru that lives within. But if we don't have these external gurus, we're just going to be wandering around like, with thinking that very easily our ego can trick us into thinking that we know what's right.
That we know it all.
There are these beings that have incarnated on the earth that are what are called siddhas, fully enlightened beings, bodhisattvas, here literally just to help others. That's why they've incarnated. So that's how we learn, is from the grace and the wisdom that these saints that you were talking about, these great saints that you saw in the cathedral, that the saints and all of these traditions, I'm specifically have relationship with these saints in the yogic tradition. You can see even behind me a bunch of these, Ramana Maharshi, Paramahansa Yogananda, Amma, who's still living, Ramakrishna, Neem Karoli Baba, as I mentioned before. They've shared the pure essence of the Vedas, the truth, the knowledge that comes from this 5,000, 10,000-year-old spiritual tradition of India. So, without them, what are we just going to make things up and think that we know? No, we have to be humble and followers. Shamdas, this was my, maybe you knew Shamdas, came to Bhakti Fest many times.
Oh,
and
yes.
He right here on this where these fingers are, he passed away in a tragic motorcycle accident in India. I think it was like close to 10 years ago.
Wow.
And he always said, just be a follower. Don't try to be the master. Don't try to be the guru. Just be the follower. Follow those that know. Follow those that have real wisdom. Be servants of them. Because there's only, in our modern day world, there's this whole thing. We want to be the master, the master of this, but there's only one true master, and that's, of course, God, Guru, whatever you want to call it, whatever name you call it. As we talked about, there's so many names. That's the ultimate master. And let's follow that highest wisdom. So that's my specific feeling. And to deny that there are great beings that have incarnated on the path and in this world that truly know, that are enlightened great beings like the Buddhas and of the world, like, it's cutting us off from that endless stream of wisdom that has been passed down generation through generation throughout time. So that's my feeling about it.
No, I love that. You're right. And I get it. And I think as I think it through, I mean, in a lot of ways, I do love the call to turn inwards and hear the inner voice, which meditation, and I think, as mentioned before, this mantra work can get us to that meditation, to hear the voice and the internal guidance. Yet at the same time, I think you made such an important point. Don't let it turn into any kind of an arrogance that you stop learning or stop seeking further truth to continue to transcend.
I love that. And look, and the reason I believe why there's, this sort of almost anti-guru movement is, one, because of sort of a faulty understanding, and two, because there's been so many gurus that have come from India to the West that have taken advantage of their students and disciples, whether it's sexual misconduct that we've heard about endlessly, and financial, misconduct as well too, and on and on. And when I talk about the faulty understanding, because people don't, essentially you surrender to the guru. That's how the guru works. You must surrender to the guru. But what are you surrendering to the guru? You're surrendering your ego, your egoic self, to the higher wisdom, the higher self. And if it is a true, sincere guru, that guru doesn't want anything from you. The only thing that guru is doing is pointing you back to the guru that lives within yourself as that highest wisdom. That's the nature of the guru. So, and from that perspective, that's what we surrender to. We surrender to that energy that is pointing us back to the truth that lives within us.
Aho, Waheguru, Namaste, all those words. No, I couldn't agree more. It's a beautiful tradition, and it's a beautiful perspective on the times we're in, because this is a very, very old, the teacher-student relationship is long-standing. And I think it's actually, you're really inviting us to re-explore that in a different way. I mean, none of us are above needing to learn more. And we certainly don't want to be closed off to people that are shiny, as I like to say, the people that come with advanced knowledge that we can learn from, as I am learning from you. So
from you, just presence, I get so much from. I just love you so much, Bonnie. You just have such a sweet kindness that emanates from you. So
thank you. Yeah. So I like to talk about tools for transformation always, right? So we're definitely talking about, there's just so many layers to even just what your devotional path has been, all right, and how those could be tools for people. But I thought it might be fun to actually speak about some of the actual mantras that one might hear when in a kirtan with you or others. And maybe, we mentioned maybe you want to start with some of the ones to Goddess and Navaratri, and what it's like for you as you're picking I come from the music business, so I'm going there. I'm saying your set list, as you put together your set list, is it spontaneous? Do you know what you're going to play for us? I mean, you work with a band. The times I've seen you, it can be a jam, but it can also be really sweet and blissful and calming. So I thought it might be fun to talk a little bit about your music and the mantras that you weave into that music, and vice versa.
Sure. Yes, when I'm playing with a band, and whether that's small or big, there has to be some understanding of what we're going to chant. So there is rehearsing, and I think a little different than a pop band or a rock band where there's all of these different parts that have to be rehearsed. Kirtan is, at least my expression of kirtan is much simpler. And as we know, it's so repetitive as well too. So for instance, in chanting to the Divine Mother, we've been chanting, this one mantra that is just sort of sums up all kirtan to the Divine Mother is Jaya Ma, right? Jaya means victory. And Ma is this universal word for mother. Jaya Ma, victory to the mother. And when we say victory to the mother, as we said earlier, like we were talking about, what I find so beautiful that comes from the Eastern traditions is one of the ways that we can relate to God is as God is goddess. That she is that all-pervasive divine force of the universe. So, and we have these names, but this one almost generic name for all of these goddesses is Ma, Jaya Ma, victory to Ma. But when we say Jaya Ma, we're not only speaking to the goddess out there, but how about Mother Earth? In India, Mother Earth is considered a goddess. Bhumi Devi, she's known as. And what about all creatures that live on this earth, whether it's humans or dogs or cats or snakes, or how about the trees and the rivers and the oceans, and on and on and on. So when we chant Jai Ma, we're praising and offering love to all that is in that feminine energy. Because at least from the yogic perspective, everything that has form in this world is that manifestation of the goddess herself. So, and not only our bodies in the earth, but how about like Mother Moon we talk about as well too.
Definitely.
So Jai Ma, I just love this chant, because it encompasses all of that. And you close your eyes and you sing, and you can just kind of surf and weave through all of these different expressions of the Divine Mother. So, and then what we've been doing as well too in this one is chanting to the different goddesses like Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Durga Ma, Jaya Lakshmi Ma, Saraswati Ma. We talked about these different aspects of the goddess and different faces of the goddess. So these are chants to the Divine Mother. I always love chanting to Sita and Rama as well too. And some of the mantras that we chant are more traditional compositions that have been passed down through the generations in India. And then I love to compose these mantras as well too. And then, pretty much every kirtan we chant what's called the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which is probably the mantra that's penetrated deepest into our Western culture than any of the kirtan mantras. Whether you heard it, as we joke about, as at the airports when you were young, that the monks would sing, or maybe you heard it through George Harrison, My Sweet Lord, or you heard it as well. Maybe in the movie Airplane, the Maha Mantra, this Hare Krishna mantra has penetrated so deeply in our culture. And I always joke that the first time I remember it was at an airport, and I was with my parents, and they grabbed my hands tightly, and they said, "Let's get out of here quickly," and walked as quick as they could in the opposite direction, because they thought it was weird.
Or they knew that you were going to be very interested.
Or maybe it was their worst nightmare, But now I'm even chanting. Maybe that was their worst nightmare. Their kid would chant it. But hey, what you resist persists, right? And again, what are all of these mantras? My belief truly is that they are just love. They are love in a form of a frequency of love, a vibration of love. So if we can just keep them on our lips, in our mind, and in our hearts, they can help us resonate in that same frequency and in that same vibration. That's what mantra is all about. The meaning of this word mantra is, manas is the mind. Tra, it means to protect. So when we chant mantra, we're protecting the mind. Well, what are we protecting the mind from? All of the crazy places that our mind typically goes into. Yep. And we are brought back over and over and over again to the present moment, which is ultimately all we have, right? The here and the now.
It works for me. Fantastic. Beautiful. I hope everybody has a chance to see Govindas in live in person somewhere along the way in your worldly travels. Catch a kirtan with Govindas and Jacqueline Michelle.
Thank you. And please come. And those of y'all in Los Angeles, we have a very special event coming up at Veda Yoga on October 5th, as we spoke about a bit, with our friend Sheila Bringy, who's going to also be leading chants that night, who is just divine. I mean, her music is so beautiful. So it's going to be at Veda Yoga on La Cienega on
October 5th. I'm here to back you up on that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I mean, it's really a true, I feel like, in a way, these kirtan, these chant concerts, if you will, whatever you'd like to, the mantra music, it's like the new yoga, which I joke about, because yoga, unfortunately, that's referencing yoga as the exercise yoga. You and I both know it. Yoga far, far transcends the mat, the down dog, the sun salutation. So again, come and have that experience wherever you may be. And your music is on Spotify. I know I was listening. And your website is Bhakti Yoga Shala, SHALA.com. So people can find out more about you and all the different places you'll be. So this has been super enlightening, part 2. So I think we're going to have to do a part 3. There's so much to talk about, but I'm very grateful for you. And I can't wait to see you super soon. So thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Thanks, everybody. Isn't it beautiful to talk about just, again, this is a tool. Singing the mantras of the divine can be a tool for you in meditation. If you have any questions, please know I'm here to answer them for you. So be in touch with us at Truth Be Told and Truth Be Told Transformation. Don't forget, Tony's got his show on live Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific. If you want to join the chat room to say hello to him, look for episodes from Robert Hensley and also Queer from the Other Side. Did I get the name right? Tony's here in the studio with me. Thank you as always. And another opportunity, in addition to October 5th, October 4th, is planned to spend the weekend with Truth Be Told, Team Truth Be Told, Team Club Paranormal. Colby Rebel will be having a psychic experience up in Santa Clarita. So you can go to parapodfest.com for parapodfestival.com for all the details. And that's Friday the 4th, and up in Santa Clarita at the main theater. Okay, so again, any questions, you can find us at truthbetold.com, and parapodfestival.com. We're really excited to see you in person. We appreciate all the listens, the likes, the love. And until the next time, shine on.